It's Steve. And I'm Dan. And we're here to celebrate Chris Squire's birthday and talk about Keys Live. Take it, Steve.
Yeah, so today would have been Chris Squire's 78th birthday, and it also seems like a nice time to talk about the San Luis Obispo shows from 1996, because the first of those shows started on Chris's birthday, and there's a bit of a backstory for that as well, for how it ended up being three shows, but uh yeah, so we wanted to first kick it off by reading a few Chris Squire birthday posts that we saw. So this first one, it was on the Yes official page. Happy birthday to Chris Squire. Today we remember Chris on his birthday. Please share your tributes, favorite songs, stories, and photos in the comments.
Yeah, and from Alan White's page that I know Gigi helps run, sharing a couple of special memories from March 4th, as today would have been Chris Squire's 78th birthday. The Fish, master musician, loved by many, and forever friend. Photos of great times, Chris and Alan, and Chris with Bernd Bodal, who recently passed as well. Rest in peace. Three great gentlemen. Absolutely. Master musician doesn't even, no offense, Gigi, master musician even sounds like an understatement for that man, but we'll get into his music and whatnot in a bit.
Yeah, and over on that Alan White page, there are a couple photos of Chris, Bernd, and Alan by Jerry and Lois Photography. Some really nice photos. And this next post that we also saw is from Oliver Wakeman, saying, as it is Chris Squire's birthday today, I thought it would be fitting to post a nice picture of him. And I actually have the photo here. I could go
That
ahead
name's familiar. What band is he with?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he played with one of his dad's bands, Straubs. Yeah, and
such a great photo.
Yeah, so Oliver said in his post that this was taken by Demo Safari, the well-known rock photographer who took photos for so many famous bands, including Rush. This was
Zoom
taken.
in. Let's see that man smile while you read that.
Sorry,
zoom in. Let's see that man smile while you read that. It's such a great photo.
Oh,
sorry, didn't mean to disrupt.
See if it'll let me.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there's Chris.
Yeah.
Clean too.
Yeah. So Oliver said this was taken when we were in Yes rehearsals, and we all had ones taken in front of the same background. I'll post some others at some point. I'm not sure if we ever used them, as we also took the photo in front of the silver birch tree, which became the main promo shot, along with the black and white one, which was used for tour VIPs. I loved performing, writing, recording, and hanging out with Chris. We spent a lot of time together over those 4 years, and we were back in touch shortly before he passed away. That's nice to know that they got back in touch, even a couple years after they parted ways with Oliver. And he says, anyway, happy birthday, Chris. You are much missed. And I do think this photo was used somewhere, maybe at least on Chris Squire's website when it was active. But yeah, you were going to say something, Dad?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Being that you mentioned it's nice that, they were back in touch. I remember hearing shortly after Chris's passing that Jon reached out to him and maybe I think even visited him, and they talked in the end, which is really
special. I do remember. I don't know if he visited him. I know Jon has talked about how Chris visited him in a dream afterward, but yeah, I do also remember hearing that they got back in touch, and I think Jon said, like, you were my brother, something like that,
Yeah.
So,
and Chris lived not that far from me. In the end, he moved out to Phoenix for the climate and health reasons. Toward the end, I live 100 miles east of Phoenix, up in the mountains, folks. So it's neat. Like I just got back from there, in fact. So it's neat to sometimes drive around and just know that wow, Chris tooled around here in his Escalade, and it was like home for him for a while, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an amazing, incredible musician. And then we have, excuse me, Roy Stalt. Today, Cruise to the Edge sail out, fittingly on a bass player giant's birthday. Chris Squire, my idol in teenage years when I was a bass player, first and foremost. Today, off to the seas. Pray for sunshine, good weathers. Really nice tribute from Roy.
Yeah, nice message from here, and yeah, kind of nice that Cruise to the Edge also started on his birthday.
Yeah, I wonder if that was planned at all.
Yeah, well, they typically do it in March. Maybe they've done it in April before, but yeah, I think that's a neat little tie-in, even if coincidental.
Yeah, hopefully they'll have a giant cake and celebrate Chris and play a bunch of his solo stuff. Play the whole album and play some Yes,
Yeah, I know that Billy is on the cruise with Dave Kersner's band, Billy Sherwood.
Yeah.
I think they played at least one Arc of Life piece, maybe more than one, but I'm sure we'll hear about like other stuff that happens at Cruise to the Edge, or
we'll get them on. We should get them on together for the first time. We've never had Dave and Billy together. We should do that and have them recap it and tell stories about Chris. And they should call this Cruise to the Chris.
Or Chris to the Edge.
To the
Edge. Yeah, maybe we could. It might be tough trying to schedule. Depend on their schedules. Who knows if we can get them together. Yeah, that might be worth. We'll see what we can do. And yeah, we'll at least reach out and see if they're available for something like that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and so I think that this. So going back 30 years, or the genesis of this classic Yes lineup reunion, the lineup of Jon Anderson, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Rick Wakeman, and Alan White, from what I understand, kind of started in like 1995, after the Talk tour was finished and Trevor wanted to move on, and Tony Kaye was, I remember Mike Tiana told us a little bit about this, how it seemed like Tony Kaye might be involved in like a managerial position with Yes, but then I guess he decided to like retire for a bit, before Billy eventually brought him back into music. Right. But yeah, the classic lineup was reuniting, and on a recent podcast, Rick mentioned, on his own podcast, The Myths and Legends of Rick Wakeman, he mentioned being told that Trevor Rabin would be part of this lineup that they were trying to bring together. And I don't know if that was the case or if he might be misremembering or mixing up a couple eras, but that's kind of a funny idea. He said, I was told it would be Trevor, and then I saw that it was Steve, which was fine. I get on well with Steve, but yeah.
It is interesting because Trevor was a candidate, as was Rick, for Asia. So I wonder if he recalled the wrong instance there. Who knows with Rick?
Yeah. And I do remember he even got the year mixed up, because I think he got the year mixed up with when ABWH was reuniting. But his memory of the touring schedule and it not working well with his solo tour, like there were some accuracies there, even if he wasn't thinking of the same exact tour. But anyway, so this lineup reunites in 1995. There's a message put out on the web from Yes saying that back in 1974, maybe even on or around Chris's birthday back then, that they basically made a pact, signed a napkin to say that they would reunite in the mid 90s and bring Yes music into the new millennium. And this story sounds like a fun one. I do sometimes wonder if there's a bit of exaggeration, but for what it's worth, on that Fox After Breakfast appearance back in '96. Chris said, "Yeah, it's true, but yeah, I don't know." It is kind of a fun way to try promoting the band, this lineup reuniting, but at the same time, because of weird management stuff, they weren't being promoted as much right away. And this will be kind of
Right.
a trend over the next couple years. They would try to do some tours. Steve Howe mentions in that Chris Welsh book, A Close to the Edge, A Story of Yes, that Steve suggested doing a tour of theaters, and Rick wasn't into that idea. And so then an amphitheater tour was suggested, but then, like, nobody knew that this lineup had reunited yet, so they couldn't do the
Yeah.
tour when they were trying to book that tour. And then, not 96 rolls around, they do perform at the Fremont Theater, and um, there's also rehearsal footage on one of the documentaries from like 2008, which I'll circle back to a little bit. But um, that after the San Luis Obispo shows, uh, another idea that was presented was, like, what if Yes tour with Emerson, Lake, and Palmer? And apparently, ELP's U.S. Canada tour was in August and September of '96, but Rick and Jon weren't into the idea. So I think that would have been cool, but yeah. So it looks like there were disagreements over what to do. There's this management stuff, and there was these preferences over how to do the tour, and then there's this tour in '97 that gets booked without Rick knowing, and they don't even make sure that it lines up during his availability, and he has obligations that he can't cancel. So I understand why he yeah, I understand why he felt he had to leave. He wasn't into the business side of things. He also mentioned in that Chris Welsh book that, yeah, management can be a problem, but Yes are also unmanageable. And we've heard these stories about Yes over the years. It's a real roller coaster. But
For sure.
yeah. Um, so that's the basic context. But go ahead and like throw in, like, I feel like you're aching to talk while I'm like running my mouth about this whole.
No, that's okay. You're giving great context and history to it all. But first, quick shout out to Rand the Prague Father saying, "Happy birthday, Chris, wherever you are," with a big red heart. I would have gone to SLO because I was in Northern California, but the invitation arrived after the shows happened. Bought the VHS and the DVD. So that leads me into some of the things I was going to say. I was obviously living in SoCal, and I was shocked when I found out that this had happened. I too found out right after because of a childhood friend of mine who I grew up with for the first 10 years of my life was in the ecosphere of, I forgot the name of the company, but it was a big DVD production house in Chatsworth, Northridge, Chatsworth. I can't remember, but anyhow, yeah, and I was shocked they were playing in San Luis Obispo. Like the only thing I know about that is it's a beautiful little coastal Central California town. Been there
Yeah,
many
and
times.
Jon was living there.
John was living there. It's also where Jack LaLanne lived. Jack LaLanne, for those of you old enough, the exercise guy with the two white German shepherds in his studio, unless that was actually his house. I don't know. My mother watched Jack LaLanne every day, so I watched. And those are the only three things. I'm like, San Luis Obispo was just so weird. I thought, okay, well, Jon lives. Okay. But here's the thing. I remember being so you said the word roller coaster. I remember the trajectory of what they're getting back together. You're at the top of the and then it just crashed. It all just fell apart after the amazing DVD and the CDs came out. It was just a big WTF. F. It was such a letdown. And here's, I alluded before we started that I had a couple things to tell you that you don't know yet about this album and me. Number one, Keys to Ascension is the first CD I ever owned, even though it's a double. That's the first CD I ever bought and popped into a player. That's number one.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think he might have had the cassette for that and the CD for Volume 2, if I
Oh,
remember
I
right.
think you're right. And the
Yeah.
DVD is the first DVD I ever had.
Yeah, I think that one came out a few years after the fact, over here in the US anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Because I remember I was living in, yeah, I remember the situation, the player. I could picture the room and doing it. But the other thing I want to mention, and we'll get to comments, keep them coming, folks, is that we'll go through the set list, but I'm going to just say right here that for pretty much all those songs, they are absolutely my favorite live versions of those songs. And the first one I want to mention is the song that they played as a tribute to Chris when they went on tour the first time after he passed. And that's the song Onward. The live version of that, Steve, from this album it's a beautiful song on Tormato. It's actually that and Arriving UFO are the outliers, I think. But the quality of the live production, the live, real, organic harmonies of the voices, that Yes choir stripped down. There's still three guys, but stripped down because the music is so gentle and soft around it that the vocals really have the stage. It's such a beautiful song. Close to the Edge, that's my favorite live version of it. I know it inside and out, backwards, forwards, diagonal, in every direction, like a fingerprint, and can play it that way. Siberian Katru, my favorite version of that. I mean, it's so good that's why it was so disappointing, especially when Key's Studio came out and we get some really great stuff, especially the two that came with Keys, the first one. And it's like, oh my God, this is what a bummer. It truly is the tour that never happened.
Yeah, and they were planning on playing much of that new material
Yeah.
on tour.
I'm
I
glad that they brought Mind Drive back and a little bit of Footprints for the 35th anniversary tour. And I could have taken more in place of the ABWH song that they opened the second half with John and
the
Rick.
meeting.
Yeah, there's 50 other Yes songs they could have been played instead of that. Like why? What? Go do that at karaoke after the gig. Like, no offense, it's a beautiful song, but it didn't have its place there. Anyhow, I digress. The album, the performance, they're in their best form ever as a 5-piece unit, and I just would have loved to see that tour.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the show. I was reading up on this. It was originally going to be one show, and then it expanded to two. And they would tell the Yes fans about it and stuff. And then they did. So those would be like March 5th and 6th, and then March 4th they were like, what? Let's do a dress rehearsal type of thing. Rehearse the concert. We'll let certain fans get in exclusively, apparently. But then it was decided to like open that up to the public, which
Yeah.
some fans got kind of upset about because there's less exclusivity. And I don't know how true this is, but I read somewhere that the fans who had paid to see the March 5th show, um, I don't know how many of them were upset, but apparently maybe at least a few of them were upset that they would not be the first ones to see the classic lineup play live again, and so would buy tickets for the March 4th one as
Yeah.
well. And that is just it's such a silly thing to
It is.
hear. Yeah, and apparently a couple of the band members weren't thought that whole thing with that dress rehearsal show becoming a public show was a bit mismanaged, and Steve thought that the shows could have been better, and he mentions that we messed up on a few things, but um, yeah, I don't know. Listening to there are recordings out there of at least some of each show, and there are a few songs where on the first day, a verse in Close to the Edge might be repeated later in place of the verse it actually is. Another song, there might be a few words changed, but they weren't like anything that I thought was like a huge mistake or whatever. But it's kind of nice that they had 3 shows to choose from for the live material.
Yeah. What's your take on the songs of the official release?
Yeah, so
And you can go through the set list at this point as well and give your take. And we'll
yeah,
do it on each song together. How's that?
yeah, let's do that. So
I thought Firebird Suite came out well.
yeah, it was. They didn't even have to play their instruments for that one. That's how skilled they were. Then they begin with Siberian Katru, and the version that's on the official release, on Keys to Ascension and on the extended versions CD that I got in the early 2000s, like this version always brings me back to that point of listening to this live material for the first time. I actually have that CD here, the first Yes CD I ever got. It's got basically the live tracks that were on Keys Volume 1, but minus Revealing Signs of God, which is pretty ironic because that's my favorite Yes song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I love that version of Siberian Katru. It's perfect. It's a nice fat live sound, the harpsichord solo into the steel guitar. I mean, it's just the it's just so big. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And for some reason, I love the moment where Jon, on the original version of Siberian Katru, they're like, but I kind of like how on the official live version from these shows, he's like, like for some reason, it's a nice quirky difference that gives it a bit more power in a way. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get Close to the Edge, so this lineup is showing the public that we're digging the classic epics again,
Great version, my favorite version of that song.
Yeah, it does feel like slightly slower than my preferred versions, which would be like the studio version and the Yes Songs version, but it still sounds really good the way that they present it here.
Yeah, and I have to say I separate this studio version on its own. It stands on its own because it's it's just different. It's just so different. Everything about it is different. The music, the production, the instrument sound, it's just different. It's like a different song in a way, and I love it. So I only compare the live versions with each other. I don't compare a live version with the studio version. It's so different. It's too different.
Right. And then after that, we get your favorite song, I've Seen All Good People. Is this your favorite version of the track?
You know what? It's not. My favorite version my favorite version of the track is live at the Richfield Coliseum, because I saw them that tour in Los Angeles for the very first time, and I just love the little call outs that Jon does to the other musicians, and they do a little riff. It's just something about that that's really cool, and I saw it, and that's my favorite version of that. This is very good though. Very good, but that's my favorite version for that reason. The 1978 Richfield Coliseum tour soundboard recording. It's great. And that's my second favorite version of Siberian Katru, and live at Long Beach is my second favorite live version of Close to the Edge, in case anyone's keeping score on a spreadsheet.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite version of if I've seen All Good People. It's kind of tough. I guess the
Are you surprised I
912
do?
live one kind of sticks out. Like,
Which one?
you know, that Hammond's the 9012 live version.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like I especially like the climax in the middle part when they're switching from Your Move to All Good People on that version.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's rich. It's very. It harkens back to the studio version with the Hammond organ and the Leslie spinning with Tony on organ. It's the closest to the original version, actually.
Right. And then we get Time and a Word. And this definitely harkens back to their arrangement of it from the Tormato tour. And
Yeah,
we've seen other lineups try to do this version since. But yeah, is this the version that you're maybe most familiar with for Time and a Word? Or would that be like the Tormato tour version?
it's the Richfield Coliseum version when they do the medley. Then they go into long distance run around, and then into the fish, and then into perpetual change, and then into the end of relayer and soon. So, but if you strip all that away and just take, like you
Basically.
asked, yeah, yes, and strip all that away and just take Time and a Word, that's the sound I'm most familiar with. And what really rings out in my mind is the sound of Steve's guitar. It has just such a distinct, that sound is most tattooed on my brain about the song than any other version. But I like this version. This is just different.
Yeah. And then we
How about
get
you?
and um that's my favorite version of Time and Award.
Or what, excuse me, where does this one rank for it at least?
I think
Do you even like the
it's a
song?
very
Are you familiar with the song? Have you
yeah,
heard it?
yeah, it's a very beautiful version of it. I think the in terms of believe it or not, my favorite version of this is tough to choose because I do really like the album version and how it ends that album. I even like the fade out, even though I've said what I've said about like fade out endings. But in terms of live, I really love the Tormato medley version, how it really feels like the culmination of 10 years of the band and they're going weaving into these other songs. But I also love the ABWH version where Jon is singing it and it's like his solo medley thing where he begins with that and then weirdly he goes into Owner of a Lonely Heart and then a little bit of Teak Boy.
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah, that is.
that's a very beautiful version.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
quick note here. Let's before we continue with the list, I want to read a couple comments.
Oh yeah, we
Starting
have more comments. Yeah.
yeah, starting from the bottom. Rick uh Desarley, I think. Sorry, Rick Desarley 9875 says, forget favorites. I don't even know what your voice sounds like, Rick. That's just my interpretation of reading the words. Forget favorites. It's art that interacts with your mood at the time, like food, in my opinion. That's a reasonable take. For me personally, and I respect that. You're right. Like to me, I'm more of a what do I want to listen to suits my mood. But my favorites are definitely my favorites. That does not shift. I'm stubborn on that one. But I get what you're saying. Absolutely. Metalander says the Keys release was originally on Laserdisc from Japan. That's right. Only DVD came later. You're right. A few years later, like say, and my friend worked for that company that made the Laserdisc too. Mark Halpern. Hey, Mark, you watching? Wish I could remember the name of the company. Big name, big name. Also, happy birthday, Chris from Metalander. Metalander says, I think the band was managed by John Brewer during SLO and Alex Scott. I happen to know firsthand. He was trying to resurrect the band's relationship with Atlantic Records. The tour in 96 was canceled, I think, because Rick had tax issues in the US, like
Oh, I
everyone
haven't heard that.
in the US. Yeah, that does sound familiar, but like everyone in the U.S., it's part of being in the U.S. You want to live in the U.S., you have tax issues. In fact, if you think about it, the IRS spells theirs. Let that sink in.
Yeah, it's the last three letters. I never thought of that. But yeah, it sounds like there's a perfect storm of a lot of different issues in this
Yeah,
period.
and I remember that.
Yeah.
That's fact. What he's saying. Yeah, very
Right.
interesting. Okay, back to the set list and the review.
Yeah. So, I've been talking on the show lately about how I've had to like listen to Tales from Topographic Oceans multiple times because of that super deluxe edition. And I've even had to hear Ritual a few more times because of that Symphonic Live
Wait,
re-release. And
do you do you cleanse your do you cleanse your brain or your ear palates in between listens, or you just launch from one to the other? Like, do you go watch Seinfeld, or do you just go like walk in the park across the street or do you just jump from one to the other? I'm just curious. What's your listening mode?
no, yeah, at most I could do two different versions
A
back to
lot
back,
still.
and then I would have to take a break for like a day. Maybe there was
Put on
one day where
Iron Maiden or something.
right,
So,
or yeah, there's like some other music I listened to in between that's escaping me at the moment, but um,
Chromatics.
I do remember I listened to a Buckethead album somewhere in the mix in between listens, but
That's what I
yeah,
was called in junior high. Oh no, that started with an F. Never mind.
right. But between the versions of Tales songs on that deluxe edition and on Symphonic Live, and it's like, oh, I had to encounter Revealing Science of God yet again here. Um, but but yeah, I still love this song. And something I forgot to mention is I listened to the March 4th 96 recording that's on YouTube. It's audio only. The first few songs sound crunchy but gets better as it goes, and even when it's crunchy, uh, he, it's still nice to be able to realize, from the fan reactions that, wow, they're like really into all of this. I think there's even
That's
before
interesting.
one of the songs you can hear one of the fans saying "I love you," I think, to Rick Wakeman when he's playing something.
That's
So
cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
started listening to that one and I couldn't take it. It was too well, and I have poor hearing, so crunchy audio, poor hearing. It's like, yeah, I can't do it. It was like listening
Yeah.
to it with chewing on potato chips and walnuts with the shell
Yeah,
still
you
on.
kind of you kind of have to put it on low volume for a bit and let your imagination fill in the blanks of, okay, this is how I imagine it actually sounded in person type thing. But if the audio got better as it went
Okay,
on.
maybe I'll check it out again. But that's interesting. You got sort of audio bombed by the revealing science of God.
Well, I knew it was coming, but I was just sort of laughing to myself that I still can't escape Tales from Topographic Oceans. Like, it's my favorite Yes album for sure still, and I even
Same.
got even more appreciation for stuff like The Remembering and The Ancient recently, but I definitely need my breaks. I'm pretty sure there are probably some fans who love the album more than I do, who can like do everything back to back, but yeah, I definitely got to take those breaks so that you can keep appreciating coming back to
Yeah,
this stuff. But I do love this live version. I mean, think
me
about this.
too.
They dug it out for the first time in over 20 years. Like,
Probably had to hold Rick's arm behind his back and bend it a little bit.
yeah.
It,
And
it's
I
great. It's great. The guitar solo, the synthesizer solo, the subtleties. It's so good. It's so good.
yeah, and it's great that they still played it for the Open Your Eyes tour. Like, it still sounded
Yeah,
great on that
I was going
tour.
to mention that. It did sound great, but I got to say Igor did a great job with it. Like, who would effing tackle that, you know? But with Rick and the classic sound, it's just so good. It really is. It's the only, am I correct? It's the only official live release of that song?
Uh, no,
Other
it's
than
all
your deluxe 15 versions of everything. I mean,
no,
up
so
till that point.
in terms of official live versions, yeah, that was the only place for a while up until I think topographic drama. When 10 years ago, Yes
Oh
played
yeah,
drama, like the entire drama album, and
Tale.
revealing Leaves of Green and Ritual, and I saw that concert and it was amazing. So yeah, really cool stuff.
But that's my favorite version
Um,
of that song as well, studio or live. I love that version of that song, even better than the studio version.
yeah, and this lineup played it on in 2002 as well when they got Rick back in the band.
Oh,
Um,
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, so just it definitely does justice to the original song, but also feels like it has its own time and place.
Yeah. Beautiful
And
song.
then
Just absolutely love it.
yeah, and then they go into going for the one. What'd you think of this rendition of it?
It's my favorite version. I love the version from the songs from Songus.
Oh,
Um,
and how they began that concert with it.
yeah, and it's a little slower. You know what? Let me think about this.
Because I know
I'm
it's
not,
also on Yes shows.
yeah, and that version's okay, but the Long Beach bootlegs are great from the 77 tour and the one they did in Scotland. Those are great versions,
Oh yeah,
but
the
you
Glasgow
don't have the
show.
fidelity. And for some reason, quite honestly, I can't think of the San Luis Obispo version in my head right now. I think I have songs from Tsonga stuck in my head because I listen to that so much more after that. So it's wouldn't be fair for me to answer that accurately. I don't remember
Yeah, I
saying
think
that sucks. If that helps, now I want to
yeah,
listen to it.
yeah, I think for me the songs from Sanga's version sticks more because I'm also thinking about the visual presentation and the
Yeah,
band starting the concert with it and
yeah,
um
and
like
just
it's
the
got a lot
pace
going
of it.
for it.
Yeah, the pace of it. It's big fat sound again. I love big fat sound, and Steve is so on point with it, and the vocals and the drums sound great. It's just right. It's right there. I want to hear the keys version. I can't even think of it right now.
Yeah, I listened to it earlier and I can't like imagine like any stark differences to be honest. So it's
Oh, okay,
like
I was going
yeah.
to ask you that. I should have listened to that instead of Seth Godin on the way home from Phoenix, but that's okay.
Right, but then they go into another going for the one song with Turn of the Century. Now this was one of the
Oh,
bigger surprises, wasn't it?
it was, and the only other live version I've ever heard of that was on again the Long Beach tour 77 Long Beach tour, the 77 tour, the recordings from Long Beach. It's on there, but this is even better than that, and that's a nice one to dig out of the pocket, which makes that two Tormato songs because we get, of course, Onward, like we talked about. But that's a great song. I choke. I still in my
Well,
60s
Turn
after
of the Century is going for the one.
what? Oh, I was just kidding. You're right. Um, still in my 60s after hearing that song when it came out on Going for the One. I got choked up the first time I heard it. I read the lyrics along with it, and it still gets me. It's just so emotional, and it comes out in the music. It's a great version of that. And ever you give Steve a nylon string guitar, classical guitar, Leaves of Green, Done the Cap, um, Onward, Turn of the Century, those types of songs. He's just, you see another side of a musician who, if he said, "This is all I do," he'd still be a virtuoso. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
he brings that to that song, which, by the way, Alan White was one of the primary composers of it. He wrote it on the piano.
yeah. And we got a few more comments. Metalander says, was the Laserdisc production company called Image Entertainment or
Yes,
something?
it
Um,
was. Thank you. Yeah.
okay, I think they might have also been involved as songs from Songas. They've definitely been involved with Yes, at least somewhat in the
Yeah. I
past.
think by the time
And
Song for Songs came out, my friend worked for Universal, and for all I know, they're related, Universal. But it was Image Entertainment. Thanks for that, Metalander. Thanks.
And Meadowlander also says the Fox breakfast appearance is fascinating to watch. It was clearly management's idea, and the band, especially Steve, looked very uncomfortable with the puppets. Yeah, that's kind of funny because
I don't remember the puppets.
Yeah, well, the puppet is not quite as prominent. It's kind of just shows up a little bit and is like in the background next to John's head or whatever.
What's with that?
Yeah, so this is kind of funny because I know that in the late 70s or early 80s, I think Steve Howe appeared like with maybe not necessarily on the show, but at some sort of event. He appeared like at somewhere where there was like a Muppet involved, and there's a photo of this in his autobiography, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I watched this Fox After Breakfast thing, and when one of the people there is talking to someone else there, and they're talking about Halloween, talking to a professional about Halloween and costumes and stuff, and Steve is like sitting right next to them, and he like looks at the camera like he's thinking to himself, what am I supposed to do here? Like he does look uncomfortable there. And to be fair, I think I would as well if I have like nothing to say, if I'm supposed to just sit there while they talk.
Yeah, not even part of the conversation, but you're like an ornament.
Right.
They did a great performance of America on the street corner in New York City after the breakfast show. I didn't know that. Is there a video of that?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and it looks like it looks like they did the abridged version of America, unless there were some edit tricks going on.
I'm not a fan of abridged stuff. If you're gonna play Roundabout, play the middle section.
Yeah, if you're gonna play I've Seen All Good People, play the whole song.
What else do we get?
Rick also says my first Yes concert was Tails, Madison Square Garden in February 1974. Well,
wow.
What was that like, Rick? Did they
and were you familiar with the music at all?
Yeah, like did they still do all four sides by then, or had one of the sides been dropped by then? Where was that in the timeline?
Yeah, because I have the bootleg. I don't remember from what city, but it's all four plus Close to the Edge and You and I, Siberian Khatru are the first three songs, then all of Tails, then Roundabout. Maybe All Good People before Roundabout. Yeah, that's an amazing concert right there.
Yeah, and Rand chimes in again. We touched on this earlier, but Rand says Rick left because they announced tour dates that he had already signed contracts for a solo tour, and they didn't want to wait for him to get through. It was all over, alt music, yes. Yeah, I do remember reading that Rick was like doing a solo show, and when he was signing stuff, some Yes fans mentioned they'd be seeing him with Yes at this month or whatever, and he was like surprised, and he was like, really, I'm not going to be performing with them. And that was sort of when things were like crumbling,
bubble bursting.
Yeah, but getting back to the set list, apparently they did like a happy birthday thing to Chris Squire, John and people singing to him. They might have done this at every show, if I'm not mistaken, or at least one of them. But there's also footage of like after the shows, people got together with a cake and sang happy birthday to Chris, and his wife, Melissa, at the time was there too. Yeah, I mean, like, I wonder what it took to convince Chris to like do these shows on his birthday, or was this his birthday present? Like, how into this was he? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I think it's when it's what you do for a living. I don't think it was an issue. He probably figured it's more of a celebration tie-in or something. Rick says, yes, all four sides. They screwed up the remembering, missed cues, and it went on too long. Laugh out loud. That's funny. Got here late. Saw two of the SLO shows. Okay, cool. Hey, Bootleg Craig 2112. Awesome.
Oh yeah, nice username. I take it you're also a Rush fan. Um, but cool. Which of the shows did you see out of those three? I'm curious.
Yeah. And
And
did you
we
live
were talking
near
about.
there?
Sorry, what
Sorry,
was that?
I was asking Bootleg Craig if he lived near there or not.
Looks like Craig says
Yeah.
yes. So I guess Craig did live near there. But yeah, we
Cool.
were just talking about America, and that was the next thing that comes after the happy birthday thing. I love this version of
Yeah.
America. Like
My favorite.
like the 70s studio version is cool, but I quite like the maturity in John's voice when he sings this version. It sounds a bit more, I don't know what the word is, like a bit more rugged, and it somehow fits that material
Yeah.
better.
But I like that, and I also quite like the jam section, and I love how locked in Alan and Chris are with all those hits and the offbeats. I mean, it's just so nailed the whole time, but doesn't feel rigid at all. It's still loose and real and organic. It is great. Best version of that
Yeah,
song.
and the ending, the dun 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 dun,
Yeah,
like definitely a better ending than the studio version, in my opinion. Oh, Craig says second and third shows. Went to the after show after the third night. Live in SoCal. Okay, nice.
cool.
So
Where in SoCal?
after,
Just curious. That's where I'm from. I
yeah.
was living in Ventura at the time, but grew up in the West San Fernando Valley, West Hills. Lived there until the Northridge earthquake. Then I was out of there. And coincidentally, Stephen was born 9 months later to the day of the
Well,
earthquake.
yeah. The timeline, like the earthquake was in January, so not exactly 9 months. But anyway, so after America, they did Onward, but this version begins with that like Unity intro that Steve Howe plays, and
Oh yeah.
it e- e- and even though Onward has been played since without that intro and can still sound beautiful, I really do miss that Unity intro. Just it's like it adds to the romantic feel of the song, and the vocals are just so amazing. The harmonies are great. Like I love this version of Onward.
Me too. The vocals are so good on this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they go into Awaken, which, has the Rick Wakeman extended intro type thing on the keys.
Yeah.
And it by this point it had been I guess 4 years since the Union tour ended. I guess that would have been the last time they played it. Like after the Union tour and when they went into the talk era, at the time, did you think that would be like the last time you'd ever heard Awaken on the Union tour
Yeah,
bus?
for sure. And as far as favorite versions of Awaken, it might be that version. Again, there's such a close tie for me between that live at the Richfield Coliseum on the Tormato Tour in 1978 and the Long Beach show in 1977. But I think this is my favorite. Yeah, I think it's my favorite.
Yeah. At the very least, I think my favorite version of the Master of Images section comes from the Denver 1991 show that they show a snippet of on the Yes Years documentary.
Wow. And give this guy some sort of IV. Bootleg Craig 2112 says, seen yes. Oh, 30 question mark times. With my new glasses, I thought it said 302. 30 times. And SLO might have been my best. I saw them, I don't know, 17, 20 times. And my favorite might have been my first. Either my first, or which was the Tormato tour in LA, sixth row, or the Hollywood Bowl show was with the orchestra was great. But I loved this full circle tour. I think there's just something about that first time I saw them and the era, and they were young, and I think that's my favorite. And that's the the tour that the Richfield Coliseum one that I keep citing from was recorded. But that's cool. That SLO was your favorite. Wow, this says a lot.
Yeah, the Yes concerts that I saw were like much later into their history, and it's honestly tough for me to choose a favorite, even if I do include stuff like ARW and John and the Band Geeks. Like each of the shows have
They're not
something
yes.
about them.
None of those are yes.
Yeah, each of the shows had something that I really came away with that like stuck with me. So yeah, it's
Absolutely. Tough.
Yeah. So then they go into Roundabout, and maybe this is my favorite live version of it.
I think me too.
What do you
go
think
ahead.
of it?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Then I'll give you why I think it's my favorite.
I don't know. I guess because I have the most nostalgia for it. I have probably listened to it more than other versions because of the extended versions CD that I started out with. But yeah,
I think for me, they did such a great job before it builds up to the organ solo. It just the subtlety, and it's so quiet. You don't hear a bunch of people cheering and whistling and a firecracker. It's just so nice and subtle. And they stand there, happy there. It's just so good. The buildup is from the subtlety to just the blah. It's great. I love that. My favorite version of Rick's organ solo is right there too. You can hear every key pop. It's just so good. I love that version for sure. And it's got the classical guitar or the acoustic guitar intro. You know, it's real. It's real is what I like about it. I hate when it just starts out with bam, 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 on the electric guitar, and then they cut out the middle section. Like, it's not even the song. Like, do you guys know the song? Do you guys know you did the song? You know what I mean? I just don't like when they chop up such a classic that really broke them, you know, like that. Like, what do you do that for? That's like Leonard Skinner doing a 3-minute version of Freebird. Like, what the fuck hell are you doing? Let's do a 4-minute version of Kashmir. It's like, what? Anyway, that's my take. Take it or leave it.
Right, and then they concluded the set list with Starship Trooper, and this is definitely my favorite version of it. And I also always love hearing where after it's finished and people are clapping, you hear John say, "Thank you so much." It's just a nice bow to tie on the whole thing.
Yeah. I think my favorite version of that is the Richfield Coliseum version.
Okay.
And Rick's doing when he first does a you know, that whole that's the first time we heard that, and it got carried through the iterations of yes. Yeah, it's just so good. But it's a great version on keys, absolutely. And Rick says JFK 130,000 people in 76 was intense. What was the audio like there, Chris? I'm sorry, Rick. If you could rate the audio, A, volume wise, was it sufficient? B, fidelity wise, was it good? And C, could you hear it over that many people chattering and yelling and stuff? I'm real curious. I've seen one concert like that in my life, and I will never do it again. Not because this experience I'm going to mention sucked. I'm just not into being in a football stadium of people for any reason, even football. And it was Pink Floyd, the Division Bell tour, and it was totally worth it. But I just can't imagine. And then the audio was amazing and everything like that. But I'm curious how you would rate those three things: the volume, the audio quality, and how well you could hear everything over everybody.
Yeah, definitely curious about that too. So, yeah, this was quite a return for classic Yes, and I imagine that for people there, they probably walked out of it being like anything is possible or something.
Oh, yeah, but it didn't happen. I don't think it's a return. It's more of a they open the door, they poke their head in, and that was that.
Right. Um,
But it's a
but,
great snapshot of them performing great music. You know, it really is.
yeah.
We get that from it, and it's worth it.
Yeah, and speaking of snapshots, the Gottlieb brothers were at those shows too, I think. So
Yeah, that's right.
all right. And earlier I mentioned the rehearsals that they did before this. So back in 2008, when we first watched the Classic Artists Yes documentary, it had this bonus disc that had footage of them rehearsing in SIR Studios in early 1996, and I thought that was really cool that they included it in that documentary package. It's missing from the second disc in general is missing from the re-release of that documentary, as I mentioned in a previous episode, and they like retitled it Yes, Their Definitive Story or something like that. But I hope that footage gets re-released in something like I do remember hearing, maybe this was like in an issue of Prague, or someone mentioned they read it in Prague, that Keys to Ascension would be having some sort of re-release sometime this year, because
Really?
30th anniversary. Yes, yeah. So we don't really know anything about what this would entail, but what would be your dream re-release of Keys to Ascension? Like, what would it have?
Well, first I want to ask, if it is going to be re-released, what's the difference? Like, what do we get that? You know what I mean? What do we get that the first?
That's the thing. We don't know the details of like what's on it.
So here's what I'd like. I'd like to get, if they had it, and if they didn't, if they could make one up, what would have been a concert program. That would be cool. Even include Chris blowing out the birthday cake. I'd love like a what's the word? A postscript account of the events, the rehearsals with photos, the show with photos, and quotes from each of them. I'm sure there's quotes out there even from Alan and Chris. Something like that is them telling the story first person, and what they thought, and what they thought when it came out, and then also how the 2 studio tracks came about that we get on that first. Something like that would be cool. And a variation. Thank you, Roger Dean. A slight variation on the same theme of the artwork would be nice, even if it's the same thing but the hues are different or something like that. Those are the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, I would also like an essay that includes
an
interview
essay
quotes. Like you could even try getting John, Rick, and Steve's comments now or in recent times, looking back at it. You could even get Billy Sherwood to share his thoughts, because he eventually got involved with mixing some of this stuff.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, photos, and Roger Dean could do his thing. Have I think I would want all of the live tracks to be together and the studio tracks to be separate discs from those, and also include both versions of Children of Light, because on Key Studio it had like a different intro, and any rehearsal footage and any demos that might exist of the newer
the studio stuff.
That's the studio stuff.
Yeah, I like all that for sure. So is the re-release really going to happen?
I know someone who mentioned that they read about it in, I think it was Prague Magazine, and that Spirit of Unicorn would be doing it. And they Spirit of Unicorn handled the Talk re-release a couple years ago. So yeah, but there's no release date yet. We don't know the contents, but I'm sure we'll hear something at at some point.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah, so I'm very excited to see what form that could take, and also like include the concert DVD as well in that whole thing. I
Yeah.
don't know why I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, for sure.
No-brainer.
Before we get to Rick's answers to my question about the audio, Meadowlander chimes in saying between JFK and Philly and the Roosevelt Stadium in New York or New Jersey and Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, they played to close to 170,000 people during the East Coast tour. Then Rick says, I was in the very front. Sleepover, I got the stage, audio plus PA, Moraz, unbelievable sound. Wow. Meadowlander, I was at all those shows, I think saying to Rick. Oh, I see. Yeah. Rick saying that to Meadowlander. Yeah. And then Meadowlander says the Roosevelt show was broadcast on WMMR and WNEW and is available on CD. That sounds familiar to me. Yeah. Interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Will there ever be music like this again? Whatever music like this means. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you've asked this before, so like, I don't know if this is a bit or what.
No, it's still, the question mark is still floating above my head. That's what it is.
Right. So yeah, definitely an interesting snapshot, you know, bringing the more of the 70s yes material into the 90s. And at some point we do want to give the studio stuff its due. It's a kind of a question though of whether do we do an episode covering Be the One and That Is, and then an episode covering the other 5 tracks, or do we do all in one type of thing?
I think all in one. Okay. Leading with the first 2. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we'll figure out when would be a good time to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and Rick says The Night Owl with Allison Steele. Yeah, I think that's I think John got interviewed there one time, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Meadowlander says, love the Nightbird, bravo the 70s. Yeah.
All right. What a great release. I can't believe how long ago it was. Wow. 30 years?
Yeah.
You were one. Be the one.
Yeah, that was 1 and 4 months. Yeah, when the shows were recorded. Yeah.
So when you were like around 1 or 1 and 4 months, 1.5, did you ever think you'd be listening to music that came out around the time you were born? Many years later, like 30 years.
Probably wasn't thinking much of anything then, to be honest.
Really? You seemed so smart. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for spending time with us on this fun episode celebrating the birthday of Chris Squire, who would have been 78 today on March 4th, 2026. And, of course, the amazing release of Keys to Ascension, finally always referred to as Keys 1 or Keys. And you can follow us on, it's interesting, all the comments today came in all on YouTube. We always broadcast on YouTube and Facebook, and we simulcast on the Drum Talk TV, Facebook and YouTube pages as well. And if you just want the audio versions, you can listen to us live or the archive on anchor.fm/Yesshift. And there you go. And if you want, you can even write us if you want.
Yeah, you can write to us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. And we're definitely open to ideas. I actually have like a list of ideas I still need to run by you, Dad.
Oh, cool.
It's just been such a busy time.
It's been a little crazy. Let's talk about that. And you know what? Meadowlander, I love what Meadowlander says here, because he says, thanks for revisiting the SLO era, which is really interesting because it was 3 nights, but it truly is an era because that band came and did all this music and then just disappeared. So that's interesting to point it out that way. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And we'll see you soon. And that's when we'll see you, or you'll see us, something like that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
There we go. Does it really happen to you?